Ray Rodenburgh is a wealth of knowledge. Unilock, as always, blessed to have them as a sponsor and help Preston Hardscape Design and Hardscape Mentor out all the time. So whenever I get to hook up with Ray, I think we could sit down for hours and hours. This man has so much industry experience.
We probably could.
More than ever. But one topic that Ray is passionate about, as well as myself, is the open graded gospel, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so Ray has an interesting story that we talked about, and then I want to get into a little bit on just the benefits of open graded base. Right?
Sure.
Because what blows my mind, Ray, is there's still guys out there using dense graded systems when the open graded systems are going to benefit them. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, there are instances where dense graded is definitely the thing to use, but in a majority of cases, if you do your base prep, your excavation properly, open graded is the way to go. And I mean, my story about open graded, actually, I started when I was a contractor, so we're talking 45 years ago.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, but how cool, we're still talking about the same industry. And
same industry, yeah.
Yeah.
And I came across open graded quite by accident. We had we were installing 2x2 slabs at the time, and 45 years ago, the standard was like 6 to 8 inches of coarse sand.
This is the insight I want you to share, because this is going to show you the evolution, but then it's also going to show you how this guy was already onto it 42 years ago.
Yeah. And, I mean, there's no internet, no cell phone back then. What you learned from other guys at the coffee shop or, So, so I had product delivered to the site. It was supposed to be sand, and the dump truck dumped it right at the back door of the home that we were putting the patio in. Some small patio, 72 slabs, and dumped it, and out came 3/8 inch chip. Okay.
Wow, yeah.
And, we all looked at each other and was like, oh, no. Well, and we didn't have a loader on site at the time.
There was a mistake in the communication with the delivery driver. Who knows?
It was at the pit. The guy got radioed. Something wrong. Right,
yeah.
Like,
so he brought 3/8 fractured clean chip. Just like what we're using today as our bedding layer.
Right. Yeah. And he popped the tailgate up, and all the material was laying there. I went, we're going to have to shovel it all back into the truck, and
because we need sand.
And then one of my foremen, Steve, Steve and I are still friends today, and we still laugh about this. Steve says, why don't we just use this 3/8 chip? What could go wrong?
I'm sure
right?
you still laugh about it today. For sure.
So I said, okay, you and Keith. I said, you guys install this. I said, you're probably going to take you like 3 times as long, and 2.5 hours later, it was only 72 slabs, but it was only the 2 of them. So 2.5 hours later, he gives me a phone call. Not cell phone, remember, back of the office. Yeah. He says, what do you want us to do now? I said, what do you mean? He says, we're done. I says, I bet you it looks like hell. He says, no, it looks really good. I said, all right. I went over there, and I checked for wobbles and, everything else in the grade.
You're unfamiliar with a new material underneath your pavers,
yeah,
right?
And it was perfect. And, we started, having a conversation about this amongst the 3 of us, saying, hey, you know what? We could install it faster, even though we were doing them onesies at a time, with a rake and a level.
Yeah.
Right?
So what was the how was the installation process sped up? Was it switching from sand to chips?
Yeah.
What do you think the benefits were?
So they got good at raking out the spot for the next slab, right? They got really accurate.
It's way easier to work those chips than the sand.
Yeah. And you needed to put in a little bit. You could. And what happens with sand, of course, you want to, sometimes you jump on it, to get it into place, right?
Yeah.
And then it deviates again, and then you got to do it again.
Yeah, right.
The 3/8 chip, you put a little bit in there, it's not deviating. I was like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
right there is the benefit of using 1-inch bedding layer with chips.
Totally.
He just said it. Yeah.
And so now, then I started realizing, we started talking about, hey, this, because it's open graded, okay, ants aren't going to be on there. People are always calling me about ants. I got ants in the patio now,
Yeah.
And weeds, a year later they call me, I got weeds. What do you do for the weeds, right? So weeds were not a problem anymore, right? And, after torrential rain, no water collected anywhere. It just because we didn't put sand between those slabs either.
Yeah.
But, fast forward, Unilock comes on the scene, Unistone, the zigzag shaped paver that of days of old, and
revolutionary at its time.
So right, and we said, we should apply this to, because So
now you're working for Unilock, though.
No, still a contractor.
Oh, sure.
Still a contractor.
Okay,
and we used 3/8 from then on for every patio, and it became part of my sales shtick, right?
Oh my goodness!
I would say
40 years ago.
45.
45.
So I would say to homeowners, you know what? When we put it in, we use this special chip,
Wow.
not sand. I said, you're not going to have weeds, you're not going to have ants, and it's not going to pool water anywhere.
That's in my sales pitch today.
There you go. Yeah. I knew you back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's so Unilock comes on the scene, pavers.
Yeah.
And I thought, we started doing some Unilock, but we were still doing dense graded and coarse sand as our bedding course, and because that was the prescribed method, right? And still is, by many today.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to try it on 3/8 chip. So
now you're going from a 2x2 slab. The next experience is the zigzag.
The zigzag.
Yeah.
So what we did. So fortunately, thank goodness for my father-in-law. My father-in-law said, he wanted to have a patio put in, and I said, "Do you mind being a guinea pig?" I said, "We're gonna,
And this is another thing I tell my students all the time. How do I get started in hardscaping? I say put a patio in at your own house or a relative's house.
Relatives, yes, I've heard you say that.
It goes right back to this. Yeah.
I've heard you say that. Yeah, and so I told him, I said, I'm going to use this new method. I said, I hope it works. But so anyway, we screeded the 3/8 in, and we laid the Unistone on it. And my question at the time was, where's all the joint sand going to go, right? Is it going to go just like into nothingness, oblivion?
Pay attention. Here's another myth in the industry right now.
So, right. Yeah, no, I know where you're going with that. And, so we had a tradition even on dense graded projects of washing our joint sand. This was pre-polymeric days, right? We washed in our jointing sand.
Similar to the resin sand now, but it's not binding.
Right, it's non-binding. And we would use a squeegee and a hose and make it into a slurry and get it into the joints. And that's how we always did it on dense grade. So we did it here as well. And I thought, I'm going to have these sinkholes. It's just going to No, it chokes off. Yeah. It chokes off. And that's the fear many have. You just mentioned it, right?
Yeah. No. What do we use on our permeable systems if the joints aren't permeable? Right. I think that's always the concern. It's like, and how much sand am I going to use? I feel like people make up an excuse that there's a variable of the sand because it's going to keep sinking in the joint or something.
Yeah, right.
It's just not true.
No,
it's just not true.
But I mean, it's kind of a logical assumption.
Yeah,
But just the way that works, and polymeric, of course, it solidifies after it chokes off. Right.
Yeah.
That's the added benefit of the polymeric. But so anyway, we successfully installed it, and he lived for another 25 years at that same house, and the pavers never went anywhere. It was perfect.
And that's why you install at a relative's house.
Yeah.
You're visiting this guy all the time. You can see the progress, right?
Yeah.
So how does this play a part in your career when you get to Unilock then?
Okay,
right.
That's a fair question,
you know
and
what I mean?
It's interesting because the first day I got hired, I actually, because of my install background, we were building a new plant east of Toronto, and they said, "Would you mind maybe spending a couple of weeks, landscaping it for us?" And I said, "Okay." So I was going to order open graded, and my boss at the time says, "Open graded? Nobody puts product on open graded. That's contra the industry standard. We can't do that as a company. You'll have to use dense graded and sand bedding." Okay, I hated working with it, obviously. So, and
you did it.
But I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. And
but you had the idea.
Yeah. But very fortunately, in very short order, we started selling permeable pavers. Our Ecolock was the very first one.
Somewhat a leader in the category. Can I say that?
Yeah, actually, we were a leader in that. We were the first permeable paver, concrete paver manufacturer. And so we installed several commercial projects, and it got me thinking as a TM at the time. I thought, we're installing all this product in big parking lots, stadium parking lots, on open graded. like, why aren't we doing this residentially?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't take half the torture that these parking lots do, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So-
and they're doing it in municipalities because they don't want it to fail.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So there's just so many benefits to the open graded, and not to mention, you put 3/4 clear in as your initial base. You got about a 40% void ratio, and that's like the space between your window panes, right? It's
Sure.
just you're creating an insulated bed also, so it doesn't allow the frost to penetrate.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you get less frost movement, right?
Yeah.
So less frost movement, less settlement, fewer insect infestations.
And I can just say
drainage.
ease of installation. I mean, even ease of installation, raking it out when it goes in, it's already
and working in the rain. At
and
least the
working
drizzle.
in the rain. Covering your paver, like when we had our patio laid out and we didn't have the polymeric sand in yet,
Right.
we would have to cover it with plastic every night until we got the polymeric sand in.
Right.
There was a horror story where a guy didn't cover his patio with sand. He had a 1-inch bedding layer of mason sand. Went out the next day after a heavy rain, thought it was dry enough, went to compact it, and the sand squished up between the joint.
Gross.
Are you serious? It's like, so nothing like that anymore, right? So that's right. So all the benefits and integrity along with, the ease of construction in the field and keeping your schedule going. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so, the open graded is like, and, when you really think back even harder on this open graded story, you just have to look at the railway tracks, right? Just have to look at the rail.
People have heard me say this hundreds of times,
okay.
and I heard Bob Clovis say it at a Unilock seminar about 12 or 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is why I switched to Unilock.
Yeah.
Because it's guys like you and Bob Clovis who are speaking about the industry. I mean, how many times did Ray mention Unilock in this conversation, right? Because they're all about building things correctly, right?
Yeah.
And then all the Unilock sales and everything else will fall into place if hardscapes just keep going down, right?
Hey, if jobs go in better and they go in faster, we're all for it because we're going to sell more product, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yep. So open graded gospel, you heard it here live, H&A 2023 from Ray Rodenburgh. Just a wealth of knowledge, a huge asset to the industry. I know if anyone's walking around here at H&A, they should hook up with Ray. If you ever see him at a Unilock seminar or anything else, try and get in the guy's ear. You're going to gain insight no matter what. So what an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to sit down with Ray. And thank you so much, Ray.
Hey, the honor and privilege is mine too.
This is awesome.
Meet with the amazing Preston.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No,
so,
I can't say enough about the support from Unilock. And the staff across the board. I mean, from Ray all the way down to I had a 2-year guy, Andy Strutman, in here.
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah, well, you know Andy.
Oh, my goodness. It's just like you guys hold everybody at the highest standard, I feel.
Yeah.
You know, across the board, everyone I've met. So thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so
welcome.
much for your time.
My pleasure.
We'll let you get back to manning your booth over there.
All right.
We'll see how busy today gets. So
thanks
you
a lot.
so much.
I appreciate it.